Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our family here on Backlot 605. I am one of your hosts. I'm Casey Kelterman. Joined with me is my family, Brian Mensing.
What's up? Well,
and
family adjacent.
Yeah, no, we're family. We're like the Fast and the Furious family.
Oh, a group of people that have become a goal and have become family instead of friends.
And in about 3 years, we're going to introduce John Cena to this podcast and just say he was here the entire time.
News and everything now.
Speaking of John Cena, he was a wrestler, so we're going to have a wrestling commentator on because we are not talking about anything wrestling related at all, but we love him anyway. Charlie Eccles is back for the first time since...
the Pixar live show.
Oh, but like on this show,
it's been a long time since you guys have had me on this one.
I know.
I don't remember. I'm always on the live shows.
Because Casey's like, well, we gotta have Charlie every once in a while.
You can't just let me go off the cuff on a live show anymore, is what's going on. We have to record and edit Charlie. Why is everybody all staggering in the Midwest? We have to do this all in post.
We have to edit Charlie out of everything that we cannot control.
Because when we get done with this one, we're just gonna superimpose John Cena over Charlie.
Yeah, there you go. But
it's just gonna be a blank background behind him.
Yeah. Check it out. John Cena's here.
John Cena's arm was floating in the corner of the camera.
Yeah, well, he did some of this.
Oh, sorry. Was I not supposed to talk yet?
Then he did a firefighter show movie.
No, Sam, you're not supposed to talk till you get introduced. Learn the rules of the show.
I'll stop talking so we can introduce Sam.
Yes. Charlie, thank you for being on again.
Absolutely, guys.
And introducing for the first time ever as our official third man, he is the squeak to our Trey Parker and Matt Stone, if we are going to throw out a basketball reference. He is Sam Lenz. We're not calling you Sam the Damned on this show. That's for another show. Sam Lenz, everyone.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
You are the squeak to our Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
I am. I'm the little bitch.
Sam, you need to learn the rules of the show again because we do not swear on this show. You got to throw money into our swear jar now.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna make
that's a swear word.
Did Casey not tell you that's why we're having you as the third counterpart, because we need to beef up that money? We want to take it out of your pocket.
Oh, I gotcha. So you implement the swear
make
jar.
More money than all of us, Sam.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yep.
He hides it in the mystery machine behind him.
That mystery machine's actually empty. It doesn't even have the DVDs in there.
I don't know. That's where you hide all your cash.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would not be surprised if Sam had a piggy bank of a mystery machine.
That'd be awesome.
I used to hide my money in the back of a stuffed SpongeBob.
Why would you tell the world?
Why would you admit to that?
Because I haven't done it in years.
Oh.
So someone's going to break into Sam's house and look for the stuffed SpongeBob somewhere. And they're like, this is filled with money.
It's just going to be Dom from Fast and the Furious. Just like, this money was for his family. Dog, bro.
Oh, God.
So what are we here for? I don't remember.
We are not talking about anything we have already mentioned on this show at all. That is not the topic. Our topic, though, is we are kicking off non-superhero comic book movie month here on Backlot 605. We are gearing up for SuperCon 2021, Heroes Homecoming, coming up the first weekend of October. So for the entire month of September, we're talking about not comic book movies, because you're going to get a lot of that at SuperCon week. And we're talking about the superheroes that were not based on comic books. And we're kicking things off with a little bit of a sly transition from M. Night Shyamalan month last month to non-comic book superhero month with Unbreakable.
What a twist!
Unbreakable.
Talking about a transition I don't think we'll ever be able to do again.
What a twist! He's here for a fifth week.
We just can't get rid of him.
We just can't get rid of M. Night Shyamalan.
I gotta say, guys, I really enjoyed watching this. What's her face? The redheaded girl. She's really good in this. She gets
We're not
out of
talking
the bunker.
about Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh,
no, wrong Unbreakable.
as I'm literally seeing it for like 10 seconds, going, "What the hell?"
We're not talking about Aaron from The Office's spinoff. We're talking about the M. Night Shyamalan Bruce Willis.
I forgot her name in The Office.
Oh, thank God, because I watched that too, so we're good.
I'm like, I watched this here a couple nights ago. I'm like, what redheaded woman is he talking about?
Like, Robin Wright was not redhead in this.
She may have been able to pass for it. Actually, so when I did rewatch this, I have this on like an old DVD, like the first special edition that came out on this, and I have not updated that. And it felt like a VHS cassette when I was watching this. It was great.
That's awesome.
So,
speaking of,
this
is how I watched it. It's on glorious
VHS,
and we have the. Do you have the Blu-ray?
No.
That's the DVD.
Yeah, that's the exact same one that I have.
This
Brian,
is the Vista series that when it first came out. This is the same one like Derek has.
The 2-disc.
Yeah,
you're all pulling out your copies of it. Let me get mine.
All nice,
hurry up,
beautiful.
Sam.
Look at this. Look at this beautiful masterpiece of a work.
No, you know what? I think mine is even earlier than that, because mine came and it was just the 2 flaps, and it was just the 2 DVDs. It might have even just been an insert with the DVD on top of the special features disc.
Me?
Here's my copy. Glorious Digital.
Hey, that's how I watch it, actually. I didn't even take my copy of Unbreakable off of the shelf. I literally just went like, there we go. Let's hit play.
I'm surprised that none of us own a copy of it on Blu-ray, though. Because, I mean, it's a cult classic movie. Really.
Yeah. It is kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway.
What? There's a Blu-ray?
You guys have a format to this. And we
sort of do.
There's a format, too?
It's almost like there was a missing ingredient that when they added it in, all of a sudden the flow of the show went off.
I think we're gonna backtrack on our decision for a third person.
Sam Lenz is our Mrs. Dash seasoning. We don't know how it's gonna taste, but we're gonna add them anyway.
All right, let's get into the format of the show. Hey, first up, we got the box office. So let's jump into the box office here for this week. Number 1, Mr. Candyman, $22.37 million for the sequel to Candyman.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I haven't seen it yet. This is not a 4th installment. This is a direct sequel to the original.
That is correct.
Yep.
Okay.
100%. It kind of acts. It's sort of the same as like Halloween 2018, where it just kind of forgets the rest of the sequels. It's like,
sideways,
hey, this is where we're.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
How could they skip over Candyman Day of the Dead? It is a classic.
Never seen it.
Actually, it's horrible. It's
I've heard both of the sequels are pretty terrible, so I've kind of just steered clear of them.
Number 2 is actually pretty good.
Is it?
The original one is one of my favorite horror movies, though. If you like the original, I think you're gonna like this. I mean, it's pretty divisive, but it's
a different tone.
Yeah, it's a different tone. It's very much like paying homage and like being very respectful of the '92 movie, but it definitely goes out in its own way. Yeah. Like it adds to the mythology and things. It's pretty great. Awesome. I liked it a lot. So
the first one was extremely divisive. They need to do that with one that's like this too. I mean, it's extraordinarily divisive. So
I'll say this one felt less scary though.
Really? Yeah. Okay. I was really hoping for more jump scares and a little bit more gore.
No,
there's definitely gore.
Yeah, to me, it's more of they wanted to explore the mythos and expand on the idea while being the typical Jordan Peele social commentary in the process.
That makes sense.
So I mean, I think like Sam said, I think they did a good job of being respectful to the original without basically trying to shit on it, saying, "Hey, I can do this, but I can do it better."
Okay,
they're like, we're gonna make our version adjacent to that, updated for now, and to me, it's not as scary, but it's the way that they do it that still makes it, on par.
Nice.
It's as unique of a slasher as the '92 one was.
Yes.
Like
that's cool.
When so I think people like whether it's totally your wavelength or not. I think people are gonna find something to like in this, no matter what.
Very nice.
So clearly people are excited for it showing up. I expect this one will have pretty decent legs. just because I feel like word of mouth has been, I mean, it's been divisive, but it's been like the good stuff has been really good, you know?
I will say one of the best things I enjoyed, at least just going into it, is the attention to detail that every single title card at the beginning of the film is in reverse.
Oh, nice.
Yes, the studio logos. I thought the projection was screwed up at first and was literally even like looking over my shoulder like, is someone going to come fix this? And then it clicked. I'm like, mirrors, I get it.
Yeah, right? Yeah, as soon as the Universal logo, because when it started coming back through, it's coming from the wrong side. I didn't think nothing of it until all the letters start coming around and they're in reverse. I'm like, oh, I see what you did there.
See, I did not get it until almost towards the end of the sequence. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Candyman, mirrors.
Yep.
Yeah, it threw me for a minute. I was like, oh, God, no, don't. I thought I was going to have to go up front and like talk to the people.
Sam was getting social anxiety. I might have to talk to a person at a movie theater.
Exactly.
What the hell?
I think Sam's also forgetting.
Sir, I believe your movie is playing backwards.
And Sam's forgetting that.
Just sit down. Sit down.
You're also forgetting that, they're giving them film digitally, so there really isn't a way to make the film backwards in their system.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking too. Like, I was like, how is this happening? Like, we don't use projectors like the typical like film reels anymore.
Why is their projector pointing at a mirror and then showing on the screen? Why are they doing this?
Oh gosh.
All right, Candyman number 1, $22.37 million. I think it'll, like Sam said, it'll have some legs. I think September is a pretty slow month for new releases. We have a big one next week, but after that, I think Candyman's going to stick around for a while.
Yeah. Well,
I actually picture next week Shang-Chi will take over, but then after that, Disney's going to get its slide like it's been doing, and Candyman might actually take it over. Maybe.
Yeah,
the only reason why that would not happen is because Shang-Chi isn't getting a dual release.
And I believe Malignant comes out that's
that's
two weeks from now.
Yeah, Malignant is nah.
I feel like Candyman will be good counter programming for like those that aren't into Marvel, because I know that there is some fatigue going on with that. I mean, Black Widow didn't do tremendously at the box office. And I know that was like the dual release thing too, but I don't know. We're getting closer into like the horror movie season. I personally thought the trailers for Shang-Chi were pretty good, but I've also heard like a lot of people consider them a little lackluster. And so I don't know. I don't necessarily think Candyman's going to beat it next weekend. I don't think that at all. But I do feel like it's going to have better legs than Shang-Chi. I think Shang-Chi is going to open with a bang and then kind of...
I think Shang-Chi is going to run the course through September. I think it'll stay number 1 probably the entire month. Just because it doesn't have that dual release option.
Yeah.
If you want to watch Shang-Chi, you have to go to the theater watch it.
That's fair.
I guess we will find out.
I don't know. I'm rooting for the movie. I hope it does well. So...
Number 2, Free Guy, Ryan Reynolds, $13.56 million. Again, this is one of those movies showing that I think with if it had a dual release somewhere, it was released on VOD, these numbers might be a little skewed. But again, it's sticking around, doing very well for itself with almost $14 million here for third weekend out for this movie?
Yeah, I think so.
15th of August.
So yeah. Third
And
weekend out.
This movie, like, it doesn't surprise me. This movie is very feel good. It's very, very lighthearted.
PG-13.
Yeah, it's a good movie to take the whole family to. Honestly, it's. I don't know. I was going into it expecting to like it, but not like love it, and I ended up. I don't know if I'd say like love it, but it was a lot of fun. I'll definitely be adding it to my collection when it comes out.
I want to know how many teenagers were trying to explain to their parents who don't
who
play
all the
video
gamers,
who don't. Well, not even that. No, who don't play video games. Why the one guy was teabagging the other?
Yeah, there was some really funny stuff. Like, this is a movie that has a very busy background, but it's not like it's not ultra distracting, and it kind of adds to the world because you see things and you're like, oh my god, they're like really recreating a video game world.
It's not Space Jam: A New Legacy with a distracting background.
I mean, we've talked at length about this movie. I don't think that the background is that
let's talk
distracting.
about number 3 because you're just gonna go off the rails again with Space Jam.
Number 3, Paw Patrol. Hey, the movie, $6.63 million. Again, family entertainment for all. Paw Patrol.
Yeah, we learned that Paw Patrol as a movie.
Did you just learn, huh? Wow.
Hey, pretty soon you'll be up to date on those news because you're going to be
right.
You're going to be watching that
be the
stuff
first
every
one
day.
in theaters for Peppa Pig, the movie.
I know, Peppa Pig, the movie. Me and my daughter.
I will tell you just because of my movie attempt for the 2021 that I'm like, all right, well, shit, now I have to watch this. I was like, I wanted to try to watch a movie in peace that my kids were not going to be bugging me throughout the whole thing. That it's like, it's really sad to say that I'm like, yeah, I watched Paw Patrol at like 10 o'clock at night, so my kids were in bed.
Because I'm a professional.
I'm a professional.
I am a professional.
I'm not going to have my kids bug me during a kids movie.
I have to give my honest review, and I can't do it with my children around trying to skew me to make this seem like it's not that great. This movie's phenomenal. This movie's phenomenal.
Dad, this is nothing like the show.
I
can't believe they ruined our favorite character of Chase.
Brian, for a guy who loves Fast and the Furious, you know nothing about family.
I will say this for this movie. For the movies that we currently have in the box office and whatnot, if you have something you want to take your little ones to, at least there's something to be able to take your little ones to. It basically is nothing. Essentially, it's a long form episode for Paw Patrol. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I'll at least give them the fact that it's something for you to be able to. In the end of the day, it's another thing that they'll be able to buy for their kids that their kids will watch over and over again at home.
All right, let's cruise on to number 4. Jungle Cruise, $5 million this past weekend for Mr. Dwayne the Boulder Johnson and Emily Blunt.
I get it.
Charlie, do you get it? Do you know the wrestling things?
I know wrestling things. I do. You said the Boulder. He meant that's hilarious.
No. You're poking fun at Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but we don't make any fun out of the fact that his co-star's last name is Blunt.
Yeah.
What's so funny about Blunt?
What's funny about Blunts, Brian?
Yeah, tell us, Sam.
I take Blunts very seriously.
Sam, just be blunt with your description.
Yeah, while you go get your Scooby-Doo van from up there, and let the smoke puff out of the.
We know what's in the Scooby-Doo van. All right, Sam.
It's not empty.
I don't think we have to hold our breath to know what's in there because number 5 is Don't Breathe 2.
That was terrible.
What a great transition. That was fantastic. Amazing.
I am trying to keep this show moving, guys.
You are a professional.
Don't Breathe 2.
Let's get some air back into this.
I love this place.
I like this movie. I wish it was doing better at the box office. It was really fun.
It's doing as well as I thought it would.
I think it's right where I expected it to be.
Yeah, it's where I expected it to be. I don't know. I like this. I kind of want to Don't Breathe 3 after this one, which I didn't want to Don't Breathe 2, but I could totally see a Don't Breathe 3 now. I really liked Don't Breathe 2, so I hope people go see it.
The next Don't Breathe we get is skips the theatrical route altogether, and we go straight to VOD with Stephen Lang.
Yeah, it needs to be super low budget, straight to VOD, because that's what Don't Breathe 2 was. And I'm so glad I saw it in a theater, but also, you can probably wait for the DVD. You don't even have to get the Blu-ray.
I think at this point right now, I think it'd just be Stephen Lang in flashbacks and whatnot, and it's going to be that little girl with PTSD going off the rails and, killing everybody.
I am all for an 8-year-old John Wick type of movie.
Right, exactly.
100%.
Why, that's the movie we need to follow this up with.
Baby's Day Out, and we've covered it.
It's about this terrorist group
going to say Kick-Ass, but
that breaks into her school, and she has to use all of her school supplies to kill all the terrorists breaking into the school.
I'd watch that.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Die Hard, but with 8-year-olds.
I was going to say Home Alone in a school.
Pretty sure she's older than 8, but you know.
School
alone.
Don't breathe in school.
Home Alone homeschool.
All right, that's the box office, ladies and gentlemen.
Way to stay on track, boys.
Let's go on to the news.
Charlie let the air out of this.
Thank God there's only one news article, and we don't have to try to transition anything.
Right. The whole and I will leave this up to you because I haven't watched it on purpose.
Oh, you might.
The news.
The whole hey, Spider-Man's got a teaser trailer. Ironically enough, this dropped the day after it leaked because that was planned.
Did North Korea leak this one too?
I'm not gonna lie, that was the first thing I thought about because I was like, well, it is Sony.
Yeah. So
I call me shocked.
And they didn't change their passwords to their emails since 2014.
Wasn't this debuted at CinemaCon?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
No?
But
okay.
I also like
not.
the fact that after this officially dropped, everybody is all like trying to make the WandaVision connection kind of thing and whatnot. It's like, no, it's Sony going, oh shit, people are seeing this anyway, so we're going to drop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. Oh my goodness, the August 23rd was the date that was on Wanda's calendar in WandaVision.
Brian,
that was
the
better
diagram
than
between those people and QAnon believers is just a circle.
I just want to point out that Brian's reaction to that was better acted than anything in WandaVision. So,
Boo this man.
Oh my God, Eccles, what?
Remove from feed.
We're just gonna finish this episode, the three of us.
I said it. What you gonna do? I'm at my own house.
All right, let's bring the positivity back here. Spider-Man No Way Home teaser trailer.
Can we bring the negativity back for just a second?
Just 1 second.
Okay, Far From Home is abysmal. It's my least favorite movie in the MCU, and I was not stoked to even see the trailer for this. Like, I was not one of those people clamoring.
Yeah.
I now am I did a total 180 on this movie after seeing that trailer.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, I do not like Far From Home. And I like Homecoming quite a bit. I do not like Far From Home, and like this Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, like it sold me, and it sold me even before the obvious ending where everybody they got everybody talking, like just from the get-go, I was like, oh, this already looks better,
And I know there's a lot of people that are avoiding the trailer, so I don't want to talk about it much. I have one friend who is like actively avoiding it, and he got just a news article. Yeah. Well, in this one especially, this has been probably the most anticipated of all the trailers.
Yeah,
I totally agree
with the concept. But I just want to point out, because we're going to talk about wrestling for 2 seconds. Jay Lethal isn't in this movie as a different universe's Bonesaw McGraw. I am going to be super upset. Now, for those of you who are not wrestling fans, Jay Lethal was a professional wrestler at Impact Wrestling, now at Ring of Honor, but his initial run was as the Black Machismo, Jay Lethal, where he was a spoof of Macho Man Randy Savage, and it was wonderful and perfect, and he made so much money doing it. Now, Marvel, I know you're listening, because everyone listens. His name is Jay Lethal. He's at Ring of Honor. They are based in the Northeast. I need you to do some reshoots for me, or I am going to sick Macho Man's ghost on you. And there's nothing worse than getting snapped into a Slim Jim from the great beyond. So I need you all to listen and make sure that Jay Lethal gets to play Bonesaw McGraw in Spider-Man No Way Home. That was Casey's idea, and I'm very passionate about Casey's idea right now.
I am still waiting for a response from Jay Lethal on Twitter, and so Jay Lethal, I know you listen to this. I know you do, because like Charlie said, everybody does. Please put yourself in this movie one way or another. We'll set up the meeting between you and Marvel. We have that connection, obviously.
We do have that connection. Yeah.
Yes.
So it'll definitely happen. Let's make it happen. Spider-Man No Way Home. By the way, Doc Ock is in this movie, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry to spoil it for everyone. It's not even a spoiler. Like, literally, if you go on the internet, there's a picture of Alfred Molina.
Alfred Molina, like 6 months ago, was like, "Yeah, I'm in the new." Like, he's like, "I don't think I'm supposed to talk about it, but I'm in the new Spider-Man movie." I'm like,
he was one of the early ons that were confirmed, though.
Yeah. I think he was. After Jamie Foxx, he was the next confirmed. I think.
Yeah. Well, it was it was the rumored Jamie Foxx, and then confirmed Alfred Molina, kind of thing.
So let's jump into the trailer just a little bit. There's not really a way to spoil. There's really no spoilers. It's basically after the events of what happened last movie. Peter Parker goes to Doctor Strange and says, "Let's make the last movie not happen." All of people like me and Sam are like, "Yes, please make that movie not happen." Doctor Strange, please do this for us. And while doing so, messes with the spell, creates this multiverse, and now we get other Spider-Man villains showing up, including aforementioned Doc Ock and a pumpkin bomb that looks like the same pumpkin bomb from Mr. Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin.
Yeah, which I'm stoked. I hope that they get the context of these characters right. I hope that they actually write them as they were in those movies. Because if they don't, they're going to have to do it right.
If Jamie Foxx is coming back, they need to fix him because
there was for something like that, you would need to do some rewriting for sure. But
I think Jamie Foxx is not going to be the same Jamie Foxx we last saw. I think he's going to. I think he's going to have the stupid lightning bolt helmet on.
Yes,
I don't think he's going to be blue. He's going to have that stupid helmet on. Yeah,
because I mean, even the lightning in the trailer was not blue. You know, it wasn't the cartoony bullshit blue lightning that was in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah, like there's so much I love about the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and Jamie Foxx's Electro is not it. That's such a frustrating movie for me.
But Sam, it was his birthday, and it was time to blow out some candles.
I have a quiet love for the Amazing Spider-Man 2 and for Jamie Foxx. You have no idea.
That's fair.
Because, and I think a part of that is because of the corniness of introducing Electro. Like, oh, it's my birthday? Oh, bad guy!
So, and that's the thing, like, I would have loved the Amazing Spider-Man 2 if it really committed to that. Like that Batman Forever, Batman and Robin type of zaniness, you know? Yeah. Or if it were, like everything with Peter and Gwen is my favorite stuff in that movie. Mm-hmm. It's so good. Like that relationship. That's just, I think, where Mark Webb shines as a writer and a director is in those like relationships between the human characters. But like it's tonally at odds with, I feel like I'm yanked totally back and forth.
It really is.
I'm like, God, if you would have just chosen one or the other to really commit to, it would have been a great movie, And
I'm excited to see where they go with No Way Home. I mean, there were some. I think we're going to get some tie-ins from the TV shows now too.
I hope so.
Finally, get some tie-ins from that. I think timing-wise, it would have made more sense if we would have had these movies released within 2020, like we had originally planned. And then all these Disney Plus shows started coming out. I think there would have been a little bit more hype behind the Disney Plus originals as well. But I'm excited to see what happens with No Way Home and how they kind of tie everything together. And we'll have to see. Like, I'm pretty at odds with this one. I have no idea. I'm going to see it, and I don't know what to expect with it at this point. So.
Also, can we quickly touch on Doctor Strange wearing sweatpants with his cloak? I'm like, that's a fashion style, and I'm kind of into it.
That was a different thing about Doctor Strange that I was going to bring up. Yes, I do love the like college hoodie, sweatpants, cape of mystery or whatever. That was. Sorry, I'm not a Doctor Strange guru at all. I love Benedict Cumberbatch in the movies. I don't really read the comics.
It almost, from the pictures I've seen, it's almost like they're like, well, we want to make it look like he's just lounging in the mansion, but we need to make sure people realize it's Doctor Strange, so we got to put the cape on him.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't know how to not look like Doctor Strange unless he's got his cape on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the magical artifact that saved his life in his solo movie or whatever. So I get, even if you're like lounging around in sweats, like having your best buddy cape hanging over you. You know what I mean? Like they have a bond. Blanket. There's a bromance there.
It's his blanket when he gets cold by the fire.
Yeah. But I don't think it's actually strange.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't. I really don't. I don't think he would act the way he does in this trailer. And I'm not spoiling anything, Brian, I promise.
Is he Mephisto?
I don't know. I really don't know, but I really don't think.
Laugh at that name. I've been hearing it since I was a kid, and I can't laugh at the name of Mephisto. Like,
okay, what is up with Marvel fans? All of a sudden, they're like, everything has to be Mephisto. I'm like, but why?
Because everybody's wants him in the movies. We just haven't seen him yet. So everybody's just trying to find a reason to be like, yo, it could be that person, that person, that person, that person, that person.
Charlie, have you ever met a wrestler named Mephisto either? It'd be a great wrestling name.
Listen, 2020 was a weird year. We all tried new things.
You tried new things. I don't.
Brian, you don't have to talk about it on the podcast. I'm a much more open person. All right, it's fine. All right, I understand that we're obsessed with Mephisto. It's okay. It's okay. No judgment. No judgment here. I'm an accepting person.
Wasn't Mephisto though the villain in the first Ghost Rider? I know it was technically the devil, but isn't? Yeah. So we've already gotten a cinematic Mephisto. Bring back Peter Fonda. Peter Fonda still.
He could be. This is opening the multiverse. Will Nicolas Cage return? That's the big question.
That is the big question. I would welcome Nicolas Cage back as Johnny Blaze. Those movies are garbage, but
with his martini of jelly beans, please.
I just want to point out, if you're gonna try to bring back Peter Fonda as some sort of ghost type of character, it'd be a good time to do it. He's been dead for a couple of years.
Yeah, I forgot. Sorry, Peter.
Let's just Peter. Wait a minute.
Yeah. As soon as you said that, I was like, I'm pretty sure he's gone.
Yeah.
They
There's
really
probably some unused footage of him from the Ghost Rider shoot.
All right, that's the news. Let's wrap it up. Let's get into.
How is our news segment long when we only have one story?
This is where
we went on a Mephisto thing. I don't know.
Never to be brought up again.
Everyone's got to talk about Mephisto every now and again.
Let's stop talking about Mephisto.
Mephisto,
Sam went there.
I did.
I mean, it was implied for a long time here.
I just went there.
It was.
There's an Unbreakable joke somewhere in between Mephisto and the word Unbreakable. Somewhere in there. We'll figure it out by the end of this. But let's jump into it. Unbreakable is the first movie we're jumping into for non-comic book superhero month / our twist on the M. Night Shyamalan series of including, hey, one more movie of M. Night Shyamalan.
Your bonus M. Night Shyamalan movie. What an end.
It is.
What a twist. So let's jump into this one. So this is a year after The Sixth Sense, jumping off that hype train for Mr. Shyamalan. I think, again, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Coming off the hype train of Sixth Sense, Unbreakable kind of flew under the radar as the next M. Night movie.
Yeah, it really did. I remember being very surprised that I had never heard of it when I first watched this movie because I was still in high school because it came out 2000.
Yes.
Correct? Yep. So I was 12 and I didn't even know about this movie until I was in high school. So when somebody told me that it was an M. Night Shyamalan movie, I was shocked to see that it was an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Honestly, I remember seeing The Sixth Sense in the theaters. I remember buying this when it came out on DVD. That's this DVD here when I picked this up here. But honestly, I don't remember if I saw it in theater or not, just because I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't necessarily know if it was that memorable, in terms of marketing or trying to get that in front of people to say, oh, you need to go see this movie. You guys really enjoyed The Sixth Sense. Come see the next one kind of thing. I remember like with The Sixth Sense, like everybody's like, oh, there's this movie, you're gonna want to go see it. Went to go see it in 99 theaters, everything like that. So honestly, I don't know. I don't know if it was one of those kind of things where it's like, oh, it's 2000s. I'm just gonna blind buy what I think looks good on the shelf, and go, oh, hey, this is by that same guy.
Yeah, like for me, like when I first was getting into Shyamalan, this was when right around when the Visit was coming out, of people hyping up The Visit as, oh, M. Night's finally returning back to kind of low budgets, doing thriller movies. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna catch up on some of the ones I hadn't seen before, and Unbreakable was one of those movies, and it was one that I always heard great things about. But it's not one you throw into like the traditional canon of M. Night Shyamalan movies, like The Sixth Sense, Signs.
Which is sad.
The Village.
That's my favorite of M. Night's movies, I think, is Unbreakable. I think, yeah, again, it could have just been the surprise aspect of it, of realizing it was an M. Night Shyamalan movie. But this is legitimately one of my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movies. It is my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie. The rest of them, Sixth Sense is obviously a classic, but some of them I just don't necessarily care for. And to be honest, it's not talking shit about those movies. It's just that I don't care for them as much as I care for Unbreakable.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually watch Unbreakable until Split.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my first Shyamalan movie, I think, was The Village, and I remember really liking it.
Up until
but
the
then
end.
like I loved the end too. Like I don't know. I still think The Village is pretty fun. I like it. But after that, he did a couple movies, and then I saw The Last Airbender in the theater, and I was just like, I don't think this is for me. And then The Visit came out. I loved The Visit, and was Split his follow-up to The Visit? Mm-hmm. I think, yeah. So when Split came out, it had James McAvoy in it. Big fan. I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm gonna watch this. And I watched it, and then Bruce Willis was at the end, and people were freaking out. And they're like, oh, that twist. And I'm like, what twist? They're like, really, Bruce Willis saw it on TV? Yeah, I was just like, okay. And then someone explained to me oh, it's a tie-in to Unbreakable. Which kind of like you, Charlie, I'd actually never even heard of Unbreakable until that point. Weirdly enough, I don't know. And so I went and I watched Unbreakable. I'm like, oh, I liked Split. Unbreakable's better than Split.
The one thing I will take into this here, especially when we're talking about Split and Glass, is when Unbreakable came out and people were talking about it. I distinctively remember M. Night coming on and basically saying, this is my first movie in a trilogy, where that trilogy are going to have two movies that I will never make. Basically saying that the expectation of the viewer was, this is the beginning. Now it's basically up to you to figure out what are the next steps to this. So when he did that tie-in with the Split and to making it part of the East Rail trilogy and whatnot, to me is also M. Night's way of going, you know what? It took me a little bit. It took me changing some studios and a lot of goodwill and whatnot. But my twist to Unbreakable on top of it just being itself was that I am going to make those trilogies. I'm just not going to tell you about it. And the way I made Split was I'm making a sequel and an origin movie at the same time, and you're not going to know it until that very end. So to me, that is just knowing that he had that in the back of his brain 20 years ago and literally sat on it for that long.
And again, I think it's the aspect of The Sixth Sense was such a massive hit, and then Unbreakable comes out, kind of flies, like we said, under the radar. And even though he says it's one of three in a trilogy, I think looking at fan reception at the time, box office at the time, I think that plays a big part into why we didn't get it till all of a sudden his resurgence is starting to come back with the Visit and Split, and he's like, all right, now I can make this because this is something I've been wanting to do for a while, and now's the time, especially since at that point Unbreakable had become a bit of a cult classic type of movie.
It really had,
And I also kind of see it as that if you wait long enough too, the waiting probably worked to his advantage. because at that point, the expectation is, okay, he's never going to go back to revisit that. We've spent too many years past to the point where we're not going to get that sequel.
Well, even when you think of M. Night Shyamalan, you don't think of sequels as part of his filmography. This is the only series he's ever done a sequel to any of his movies. So I think that also played into the split big. I don't know if it's a twist, but like big reveal by the end of the movie.
Well, and I don't know if he would have, like, honestly, he could have made Split its own movie.
Yeah.
Adding in the scene with Bruce Willis at the end, probably a big undercover operation once he realized that the movie is probably going to have. I mean, he's smart enough to know. I think a lot of people were smart enough to know, like, Split's going to take off. Like, this is a very unique concept, a very, very phenomenal performance from James McAvoy. Now we can tie in this cult following of Unbreakable, which Unbreakable, I think, just bringing it back to that, I think of all of the M. Night Shyamalan movies, and I haven't seen all of them, guys, so I don't want you to think that I'm like an expert by any means, but the ones that I have seen, this is the one that has like the most continuity within the story. Tonally, the whole movie's the same. I think the single camera shots from everything, where like you see at the beginning of Unbreakable, he's talking to that woman on the train, and they're going from this side right here, the left side, talking to the woman where it feels like you're listening in on the conversation, to now we're at the right side and we're hearing Bruce Willis's character. They do the same camera shot when he's untying the couple at the end of it. So I mean, there's a lot of continuity within not just the story and the tone, but also the continuity with how they work the camera in this whole movie. And I think that this is probably the most consistent of all of his movies, at least from my perspective. Again, Sixth Sense is a classic, probably the greatest twist ending to a horror movie. And I'll call Sixth Sense a horror movie. Like, it probably the greatest twist ending to any horror movie of all time. You know, I think the only movie that I think has a better twist ending to it would be Empire Strikes Back, where everybody was talking about it. And then I think you put those two things on the same level. Everybody talked about that twist ending at Empire Strikes Back. Everybody was talking about the twist ending to The Sixth Sense, and a lot of people. I saw that movie in the theater. I remember this distinctly. Now, I convinced my grandmother to see The Sixth Sense with me in the theater. This is 99?
Yeah.
I was 11. So I should not have been at The Sixth Sense with my grandmother. But, you know, I think in the grand scheme of things, that's what you can compare The Sixth Sense to. But then Unbreakable comes out, same director. They really didn't advertise that, and it flew under the radar for so long. And then people watched it and thought, "Oh, this might be a better quality story that was told within this movie."
I agree with you. Or I think this tonally is the most consistent M. Night Shyamalan movie. It doesn't stray away from the tone that he sets up from the opening of the movie. Unlike even The Sixth Sense, we talked about it last week. He has the scene in the jewelry store in that movie where it's like, all right, that's weird, quirky M. Night Shyamalan style of humor in this. Unbreakable really doesn't have that at all.
Right.
And visually, I think this is his most interesting movie. Like, as far as the way he composes shots in this movie, pretty much every scene in this movie is just visually interesting to watch. Like, that opening train sequence of, like, the cameras on the other side of the seats, and you're in between the seats and you're cutting between the two. It's so visually interesting to look at. Even
it's voyeuristic. You kind of feel like you're eavesdropping on a conversation you really shouldn't be. Yeah,
that's exactly how you beat me to it. Is that you feel very much like you're listening on a conversation that you shouldn't be listening on to, especially when he goes to remove his ring, and you're like, oh, okay, what's he all about here? You know. That sort of thing and whatnot. And yeah, the panning go back, because I mean, your typical shot could have been just easily slightly overhead, the both conversation kind of thing, but it gives more dynamics to the fact that you feel like I shouldn't be doing this.
And he could have easily set it up so that he has like an angle shot on Bruce Willis, an angle shot here, but he didn't. He used the one camera, and I like how you put that, Sam, that it feels like you're eavesdropping. And I think the whole point of that is that children are eavesdropping, in on this conversation. You're not supposed to completely understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's kind of
a child.
I mean, I said it in our visit episode that like I think the reason that like M. Night works so well with like child actors is because he's never quite lost that like childlike sense about him. Like some of the humor he puts in his movie is very childish. Some of the, you know, like there's just a lot of like young, youthful flamboyance to his type of filmmaking. And I think that's almost how he sees the characters when you're introduced to David and the woman on the train. You know what I mean? Like it's just, very interesting.
Definitely. You say that, and it makes me think of one things that I've seen and heard and whatnot is he's one of those guys that in true sense of I've been making movies since I was like 8, so he's able to kind of go back to that part of his brain and be like, if I was 8, 9 years old, how would I have done it, or how would I have seen it? How am I going to be able to either interact with these kids or like you said, the voyeuristic shot of you almost feel like you're the 8-year-old that's like trying to eavesdrop into this.
Well, even later on, like I mean, throughout this movie, there's another shot that just really stood out to me this time is when Bruce Willis's son pulls the gun on him in the kitchen, and when he finally sets the gun down, and then the kid just slides down bawling. The mom leans on the table, then sits down by the table, and then Bruce Willis out in the other corner all slides down, and then the camera still from that same shot just follows them all down. I'm like, it's such visually interesting filmmaking in this movie that's some later M. Night Shyamalan movies fail to really capitalize on, but really here it's so interesting because like you look at this movie is based on comic books, and I do like the opening little text, the stats that come up because again, this is the year 2000. This is what same year as X-Men, before Spider-Man, which really blew it up. So again, with a very different time that you're talking about the movie landscape of the filmmaking industry.
I think
it makes you want to
go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
It makes you want to like know what those stats are today to see how it's changed with the industry,
It makes me wonder if folks would watch that movie and see those stats and instead of thinking like in 2000 these were the stats, being like, well, duh. Because comic books are such a huge part of pop culture these days. They aren't this cult phenomenon that they were back in 2000. I
almost picture like some of those numbers would be like number of readers up, but the number of like how many are in your collection are like down because you have all of those like hobbyists that have like 5 or 6 in their collection kind of thing. I read comic books, dude. You got 6.
I think too, like I wonder how, like, for us this movie plays well because we understand what it's going for. But like for this younger generation that has grown up with like comic book culture, like in the mainstream their entire lives, like Iron Man came out over 10 years ago, and that's when it really blew up. Our kids who grew up with this gonna look at Unbreakable and be like, what even is this? You know what I mean? Like, because it is very much like a snapshot of that era of comic books. It wasn't the mainstream thing. It did seem weird for like a person to have an art gallery that was only full of comic strips, or comic panels.
And it was such a niche thing at the time.
Well, that's why I'm not surprised of, it kind of flying underneath the radar when it did, because like you said, it's very niche. The idea of the comic book spun aspect of this film is not forever. If you did that, like Sam said, after Iron Man, after the implosion of superhero movies, after Spider-Man, all this stuff and whatnot, it would have been more acceptable. But otherwise, people are like, I'm not going to go to a movie that's talking about comic books.
I think it would have been more of a cash grab if it came out around that time.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying about now. When it comes out in 2000, it's before all of that. So it's Buena Vista going, I'm not quite sure how this is going to play out, so we're not going to invest a lot of time and energy into, marketing this. And how do you market a comic book style movie when, like you said, X-Men and kind of thing, like we're on the verge of that, but it's not quite the mainstream yet.
It's not the cool thing yet.
It's not the cool thing, right?
My argument is M. Night made
X-Men and Blade.
M. Night made the movie that came out during the height of superhero movies, and no one liked it, called Glass. Because
that's what I was going to bring up. Yeah,
he made the sequel he wanted to make with Unbreakable, and basically is a middle finger to every single comic book movie that has come out. Where, spoiler alert, Bruce Willis, our hero, dies in a pool of water, a little puddle of water.
I was going to say pool is a strong word for that.
But again, like that's what he made, and that's the reaction this generation gave to it was.
Yeah.
Why isn't Bruce Willis fighting the big beast monster on top of that giant building?
Well, and that's why the marketing
in a stupid parking lot where they all just die. And
that's why the marketing was so fucking brilliant, because like those trailers, the way they were cut, literally looked like there was going to be an epic battle between the three of them. Like the trio was going to face off, and that.
Well, I mean, even even in that movie, there's a point where they're like, what was it like? There's like a group on top of this really tall financial building, and the Beast is going to go there and hold them hostage until David goes and fights them.
I think we can talk about Glass another time.
I was saying, aren't we talking about Unbreakable?
Go back 3 years ago when we did talk about Glass when that first came out.
Okay, so I remember Glass coming out though because it came out the same week of the first time I was on your guys' show. And I remember making a reference because I think that Glass is the most M. Night Shyamalan movie to ever be made.
You should see Old.
I was going to say, watch Old, and you might change your mind.
There's a lot I like about Old. There's a lot of M. Night in Old.
Yeah. But
my point is he made this same type of movie, tonally Unbreakable and Glass. It's in the same universe. I think it is a great sequel to Unbreakable. But he made that movie. No one liked it. Everybody hated it because it's not what you thought it was going to be. But when you look back at Unbreakable, I'm like, Unbreakable is such a breath of fresh air in the superhero genre because it is such a small, contained story of literally a hero and a villain origin story, and this is how you do it.
So there was a reference in Unbreakable, and I don't know if anybody else caught this, and I've only seen Glass once. I only needed to see it once. But in Unbreakable, they do mention that there are groups of people that are designed to research and find these superhuman beings and take them out. They do reference that in Unbreakable, and then it happens in Glass. So after rewatching that and catching that part, it's like, you really hung on to that one line, M. Night? Whatever. This movie's fantastic. So.
Yeah.
Hey, he kept all that in the back of his brain, and sometimes that one line is what evolves into an entire storyline.
Yeah.
Yep, we know. Yep.
Yeah, including that Bruce Willis' weakness is he can drown, and
thank you, Sarah Paulson.
He sure did drown him.
I don't even want to talk about Sarah Paulson. I don't think there's an actress that's more celebrated that doesn't need to be.
So Unbreakable.
Anyway, Unbreakable. Sarah Paulson is not in this.
Oh, she's not. Robin Wright is in this, and she's fantastic in this movie.
She is. She's really good.
Robin Wright Penn is in this.
Yes.
Not Robin Wright Penn.
Fantastic. She is.
I will certainly say that I completely forgot that she was the female co-star in this until her name popped up.
Yep.
Just because when we talk about Unbreakable, it's always Bruce Willis, it's always Samuel L. Jackson and whatnot. We don't get, she doesn't get the credit that she deserves in this film.
Yeah, this whole movie has a really great supporting cast from the woman who plays Sam Jackson's mother, the kid who plays Bruce Willis's son, Robin Wright Penn. Like, there is a really great supporting cast between that surrounds the two leads in this movie. So,
yeah, I genuinely think like Shyamalan goes down with like Richard Donner as one of the best directors to work with kids. You know what I mean? Like he gets great performances out of kids. And I that is the one thing about every M. Night movie that I love is the child performances, because they're always spectacular. I don't know. There's just like a weird shorthand he must have that just works with them, because it's awesome. I love it.
Because he wants to make all these kids look like they're going to cry. Like, I mean, if you look at The Sixth Sense, Haley Joel Osment looks like he's going to cry the entire time.
They do.
In Unbreakable, this kid looks like he's going to cry the whole time.
He does.
So it's like,
and he does at the end.
Does he tell these kids that, you know, you need to give me a great performance or I'm going to kill your parents because they always look like they're going to cry?
I'm going to make you watch The Last Airbender. Oh, no.
Don't do it. Because, like, I picture, like, especially, like, when him and his son are down in the basement. Sam's, like, trying to leave us here and whatnot. No, they're down in the basement, and they're doing the whole thing with the weights. The weights and whatnot.
The best scene in this movie.
But the kid still look like he's excited to see what his dad's going to do. He still looks like he wants to cry in the process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think he did a good job. Oh, hi, Sam.
Hi, Sam.
I think they did a good job of him balancing, like, I want to prove to my dad what he can do, what I know he can do. Like, I think that was the motivation behind it. I want him to learn what he can do, but I also don't want to get in trouble because he's still my dad.
When he's hiding in the door jam, like he's just slightly out of reach kind of thing.
Right. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't know. And I want to speak back to the tone. I wanted to talk a little bit about Robin Wright Penn. Just that first scene when she's getting introduced and that awkward hug, when you find out, like, he did the whole, like, taking his ring off and everything like that at the beginning, and you're like, oh, this dude's a pile of crap, and then you find out, oh, he's having marriage troubles. Like, now I sympathize with him.
Yep.
Like,
and you realize that it's not him that is causing the marriage problems.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's when the son puts their hands together and then they quickly drop them. I thought that really set up that whole story really nicely. And it added a lot of sympathy to David, where he's going through a tough time on a personal end, but also, like, he's realizing there's something a little bit more fantastic about himself, and he doesn't know how to balance these two things. And I thought that was a really smart way to go about that. And Bruce Willis's performance in this movie is really, really, I don't think it's really talked about as much, because a lot of Bruce Willis's performances came from his face in this movie, where, you know, like at the end when he's talking to his son, he shows him the news article. There's no dialogue in that whole thing. All he can do is react with his face. And I think that's matched with Robin Wright Penn and how she reacts to the David character and everything like that too. So I think there were a lot of things that were smart from a tonal perspective, because if we're really going to talk about M. Night Shyamalan, the one thing that he is not strong at is writing dialogue.
Yeah.
And I think
you think so.
Well, and maybe that's why this movie works so well, because it's not a dialogue.
It's not a dialogue-heavy movie. Yeah,
it's very mood and tone, and like you said, facial expressions that convey a lot of it.
Yeah, and they can tell a story that way. So
yeah, and that's probably why this is considered one of M. Night's best, because one of his weaknesses really isn't present all that much.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I mean, you've got some great actors. I mean, I think this is Bruce Willis's last truly great performance. I can't think of anything he did after this that.
Is this before Bruce?
Die Hard 4 is great. I do love Die Hard 4, but I mean, I think this is like a better performance, I guess, than that movie, you know? And I mean, he did like Moonrise Kingdom, and he was very good in that as well. But like this to me is like almost peak Bruce Willis. You know, I really like what he's doing here. I think this might be his best performance, maybe not like his most iconic one, but I think this is his best performance.
He and M. Night just click as a director actor duo that, and you would not think that those two would.
Yeah, it's a weird
Bruce
combo.
Willis is very stoic. I'm a man's man type of person. I don't listen to other people. He's on Bruce Willis time. And then M. Night you have is a very eccentric director who can pull out great performances. He can also pull out bad performances in his actor. Looking at you, Mr. Mark Wahlberg, and then the dialogue. You would not expect Bruce Willis to deliver M. Night dialogue, but whenever he does, it's incredibly well. And at least there's no one talking to trees in this movie either.
How is it that he works with two different Wahlbergs and we get a great performance out of one and a bad performance out of the other? Like, isn't it in the DNA? I mean, I'm sorry.
Johnny Wahlberg, really the superior Wahlberg? Are we really that surprised by that? I don't know.
I like
both of them. New Kids on the Block were better than Marky Mark. I'm saying it right now.
That's what I was going to say. Donnie's like, I had more number one hits. You had a hit, Marky.
You had a hit.
You guys leave the Funky Bunch alone.
Yeah, I did Saw 2.
I was on board. I was gonna say Saw 2. I love that movie. I was on board with this whole conversation right up until you started trashing Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
No, we didn't trash them. We just said New Kids on the Block were better.
Yes.
I'm not picking up any good vibrations from you guys.
Disagree. Good vibrations alone takes care of that.
Anyway, let's we're talking about Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis is really great in this movie.
He is.
So is Samuel L. Jackson. Like, this is one of my favorite Samuel L. Jackson performances. Like, I think him as Mr. Glass, as Elijah Price, is perfect spot on casting.
I want to have a comment about the Elijah Price character. The Elijah Price character didn't really resonate as much in Glass, in my opinion, as Mr. Glass. And I think it was because he was like that whole setup where he's like wearing the pin that says Mr. Glass on it and everything like that. I didn't realize that the outfits that he was wearing in Unbreakable were just as eccentric, but it did not have the definition that we have today. So I think
what's up with the scene with him in the comic book store where he doesn't say anything. He's just sitting there, just emotionless, and then keeps turning his wheel so he hits stuff on, and then he's like, I want to buy this book, or how much is this book? I'm like, what? Where does that come from, really?
That's his lowest moment.
Yeah, that's the part where he's just had his accident. Mm-hmm. He thinks he's pretty much done for because he's had such a bad break, whatever the case is. That he's pretty much in the one place where he feels safe, but it's like, pretty much I'm done. I don't care anymore. And he's just like, you know what, I'm broken, so I'm gonna break everything on my way out the door as you're pushing me out the door, until he happens to see that one thing that makes him go, wait a minute, there might be one last thing in the tank that makes him kind of bring back to reality.
Yeah.
Do you guys?
Yeah, because I mean, he's hanging like all of his hope in the fact that Bruce Willis is indeed a superhero in this movie.
Yeah.
And Bruce Willis has just taken that from him. I mean, to me, that is actually one of the most powerful scenes in the movie. I think just the way that he just kind of is limp and doesn't do anything, like, that's perfectly acted because he doesn't do anything. Like, how many times have we been there where it's just like, fuck it, I'm out. Oh, sorry. Fudge it, I'm out. And, you just like, you shut down. And I don't know. I think that is just it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, aside from the very end with him, which we'll get to that. But that to me is what really nails it home, is that very final scene with him.
I don't think Sam Jackson gets a lot of ability to show his emotion, and his kind of a lack of emotion in that specific scene is what helps, I think, drive his character on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I genuinely, I think this is Sam Jackson's best performance, like, hands down. I adore his work in this. You feel for him.
Black Snake Moan.
One of these days, I'll get back to. I was having such a problem with that movie. I was never able to finish it.
I have a question with Mr. Glass in this movie. I do think Samuel Jackson's great, and Mr. Glass himself is a fantastic character, fantastically written and performed. Yeah. But do you guys feel like the quote-unquote twist of this movie is actually a twist? Because for me, as soon as adult Sam Jackson is on the scene, I'm like, that guy's a villain. Like he's not a good dude.
I think it's more.
Does it work? I don't know.
But he's so
very sympathetic. Yeah.
It's tough for me to like view him as the villain throughout the whole movie, because like all he wants is something to hope. Is that all he really wants is that I am the most breakable human being. I want somebody who can't break. And I want to know that there's something out there that is the opposite of me. And so
he doesn't feel much of a villain outside of just when you realize what he's done.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what it is like you kind of have this like seedy under feeling. Like you're like, there's something just not right with him. Like you can tell from the get-go, you can kind of tell like, man, he puts you off in a way, but he's also very sympathetic. I credit that with both the writing and Sam Jackson's performance. Mm-hmm. But it's that ending where you realize the extent of what he has done in order to get here. That's when he truly becomes the villain. And like you're seeing it through David's eyes for the first time. You're seeing David who like has finally started to grow and trust this person who's actually collaborated with him on, doing that rescue. Like, and he touches him and he sees that, and you're seeing that for the first time with him. And it's like, God, you're thinking these people are finally going to build a bond, and you're still a little skeptical of Elijah, but you're getting to the point where you're finally comfortable with him.
Yeah. Cause David's,
and then that happens. Yeah. Exactly.
That's when you realize he's the Lex Luthor.
Exactly. And it's just, to me, that's what makes that ending work, is you literally, as an audience member, are going through those like steps with David as to like, who is this person? Do I trust them? When you finally do start to get that little bit of trust, Shyamalan yanks the rug out, and it just, God, it's perfect to me. I love it.
I'm a beat Debbie Downer for just a second. That's the part that doesn't fully work for me. I need one more scene between David and Elijah Price before he shakes his hand to understand that they actually are. When he says friends, I'm like, I don't get that up until that point. I need one scene of maybe he goes to the comic book shop before.
Didn't you just go to the bar and have a drink?
Yeah, before the art gala thing at the end. I'm like, I just need those two together. Be like, that I did it. You were right. You were right all along. And that's where they become friends. Then you can have the scene with Bruce Willis and his son, maybe. And then you do the ending of the art gala opening. And then now that we know that they're friends, shakes his hand and is like, oh shit, this isn't the guy I thought he was. I just need one more scene in there. One more.
I wish we would have gotten the scene of like of Elijah getting arrested and that kind of thing too, because they just kind of wrapped it up like as if it was like a
almost like a documentary.
Yeah.
Like it was an episode of Law and Order.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, Elijah Price was arrested.
Dun dun.
Okay.
See, I think that works though. I don't know. Like that stuff. I don't know.
They end up breaking his wrist while they try to put the handcuffs on him, and they put him into the break his legs, and they try to throw him into the back of the car.
That I think even just seeing that struggle and like, he's sedated in Glass. Like if we would have known that going into Glass, but it's I think we could have used a little bit more at the end there. And then I really hate this is again we're going to talk about M. Night Shyamalan's dialogue. I hated the dialogue at the end where he just said like, oh, Bruce Willis said something along the lines of you were right, and all Sam Jackson said was, this is where we shake hands, and that's how they end the
movie. His monologue at the end. Do you not get like? I get chills when he starts yelling after David. Especially that last line.
His final line of the kids were right. I am Mr. Glass.
Yeah, they called me Mr. Glass. Yeah.
And that's not the part where I didn't like the buildup of just this is where we shake hands. It was
That's fair.
It's
that's a little bit of
it's a little.
But I mean, there's that Shyamalan dialogue. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's
Even if Willis would have said something along the lines of "Thank you for showing me this," and he's the one who extends his hand out.
All it takes is something like that. But
something like
it's Shyamalan. He's like, they're gonna shake hands, so they should probably mention that they're gonna shake hands.
That they're gonna shake hands. Like,
and actually, if there was a little, like Charlie just said, one little line of dialogue of Bruce Willis saying, "Thank you for doing this for me. I'm glad I can now call you my friend. You've shown me my true path in this world." And then
now
sticks
that
his hand
sounds
out.
like Shyamalan dialogue right there.
And then sticks his hand out and they shake hands. That's instead of now's the part where we shake hands. Thanks, M. Nights. Didn't know that was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's literally why I give this movie a 4.5 out of 5, because I think that ending scene just needs a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Just a little bit, because I think everything else is fantastic in this movie. Yep. And like everything about Bruce Willis discovering his powers, quote unquote powers, throughout this movie is, I think, just incredible origin stories and character work as well, because it's such a simple thing that modern comic book movies do not focus on, is the person behind the superpowers, and this movie does that in spades, focusing on David Dunn throughout this movie, and just how he discovers, he goes up to like his secretary. How many days of work have I missed because I was sick? And his boss thinks it's a way for him to get a raise.
I love that scene. That is a great scene.
It goes to his wife. How many times have we been sick? Like, since I've known you? Oh, I can't think of a specific time, but you've been sick, right? Mm-hmm. Just him figuring out these things. And then his son, I think the best scene in this movie, my favorite scene, is the son and him lifting weights.
Yeah,
and
that's a great sequence.
How the first reveal of like he's lifting 250 pounds, and he's like, "That's very dangerous. Take some of those off, and I'll do those." And his son adds more, and the reveal of, "How much did you take off?" "I didn't take any off. I lied." Like, just like and that reveal.
That dialogue I thought was great, because he opened. He didn't say like I didn't. He opened with, "Don't be mad." And you immediately get into the kid's mind of we've all been yelled at by our parents. He's about to get yelled at by his dad. So I loved that dialogue. I felt like he kind of got lazy toward the end. So
even adding the paint to it of what else can we add to this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's such a great visual, and I think the real heart of this movie is, I think people really talk about the David Dunn Elijah Price relationship, but I think the father-son thing is the best part of this movie.
Yeah.
Because
it's the emotional through line, right? I mean, like that's where you get like his relationship with his son is what makes you care about him throughout this movie. Otherwise, he's just kind of a down on his luck guy who's having issues with his wife. Like there's not a whole lot and you get to know more about him as a person and a father, through his interactions with his son. And I think that's where you really start to care about David Dunn.
And M. Night kind of takes this simple idea of every kid looks up to their dad like they're a superhero. But what if your dad actually is a superhero?
Yeah.
And it's
I love the bragging he does to like his friends and things like that. Like it's so typical. Like, if you were a kid and you thought your dad was literally a superhero, that is what you would do.
That would have been like the best part of the trailer if they would have just added that little part of, I think my dad could beat up your dad, and then he just looks at him. Like, I feel like that's the ending to the trailer.
Yeah.
I love the fact that we include that, just because the fact that, we're talking about somebody who is in this situation or whatnot. But everybody, as a kid, at some point, you've had that conversation with somebody, my
dad can beat up your dad.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, kind of like you said about his work with kids and whatnot, or, him himself as acting like a kid, to be like, yeah, I probably said that, or someone has said that to me, so I've got to put that in my movie somehow, somewhere. And if I'm going to make a superhero movie, this is where I'm going to put it.
Yeah. It was fantastic. That was a fantastic ad, and what I think might be the only humor in the movie too.
Yeah, it really isn't.
I think a little bit of that, or the fact that the one scene that M. Night is in, because he's poking fun at the fact that he's getting patted down. Can I get back to my own shit now?
Yeah. But
so in that scene, when Bruce Willis is figuring out if he touches people, on certain people, he can see, like, he can have like premonitions of what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it's a little bit Dead Zone, isn't it? Yeah.
And like the first time you figure it out, it's just he bumps into some guy, he keeps walking, then just like turns around. We don't see what he sees, and it's such a great use of. And then you see Samuel L. Jackson, like, what did you see? What are you looking at? And it's such a great introduction of that characteristic to him, that superpower of, like, it just doesn't open right away with him bumping into someone and we see the flashes of it. It's just the simplicity of it. And then as the movie goes and him inside the train station and his hands, like, you see his arms extend and just his hands open up and he wants to feel everybody that walks by him. It's like, that's the moment for me, like, he becomes a superhero. He's now taking initiative to step out of his comfort zone and actually find out where people are in trouble and be the person that they need him to be.
Yeah, I did look at that scene though, and I'm thinking, as a normal human being, granted we're talking about he's in a crowded place and whatnot, but if you're walking down the hall and there's a guy that's just standing there with his arms wide out, your ass is trying to avoid him at all costs.
He had him low enough that you could not look at him.
Free high fives, Brian. You go towards that man.
High five all the way.
Yeah, Bruce Willis is offering a high five. It doesn't matter how you feel about him. You high five him.
Hell yeah. Even if he's maskless at a pharmacy. Nope, never mind.
No.
I got me some Bruce Willis time.
Anybody remember that story?
I think one of my favorites too, now since we're talking about all three of them, is when in Glass and he finds James McAvoy, and you see that power come up in the first time, and he's Hedwig at the time, and he's just like dancing. I had to mention that because it just popped into my head.
Oh man,
yeah, love this movie.
I need to rewatch Glass. I haven't watched it since the theater.
I think I want to do, now that I have Unbreakable again, I might do a rewatch of Split and Glass. I need to figure out how I'm going to watch Glass because that's not one that I own. But
probably available to rent somewhere.
I'm guessing so. Yeah, it's
actually, it might be
fun though.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably streaming somewhere too.
I'm guessing so. Yeah, Split was a great M. Night movie, but you know, that's kind of an offshoot aside from the ending, so we don't really mention that a whole lot. As much as we've been mentioning Glass. So
yeah, I think one more quick thing. I think this is absolutely M. Night's best body horror movie. Like, I think this is the best instance of him working with, because like you've got a lot of it in Old, and some of it works really well. Some of it's pretty
meh.
Like, yeah, some of it elicits laughs instead of what I think you're supposed to be feeling, which is disgusted. And I mean, I know he did a little bit of that with like the grandma in The Visit, and I mean, not necessarily, she was a little contorty at times, and a little bit of it in Split, but every scene where Mr. Glass is in peril, especially like the opening when he's a baby, that shows so much without actually showing anything. Like, it's masterful sound design, because the sound design in that automatically gets me like, like, it's gross.
You don't hear him, you don't see him breaking those bones and whatnot, but you hear it and you can't help but cringe.
And, like, the doctor's reaction, like the dialogue of just like, did you drop this baby, is like, oh my God, like, what does this baby look like? Like,
especially when you talk about
your mind just starts running wild. And it's the same thing when he falls down the stairs. The sound design and just the quick cuts of every impact. It's just like, like
that crunch that you hear when his leg hits the stairs is cringeworthy.
Yeah, and it's just, but there's no gore. There's no gore in this entire movie. There's nothing like no real like violence on screen, except for like the fight scene with Bruce Willis and the guy. But like no like on-screen gore with Mr. Glass, where like a lesser director might have been like, oh, we're going to show like bones sticking out and things. Like, we're not going to let this speak for itself. And I think because he holds back and he relies on sound design and editing, this is by far his best example of body horror, because it really, like, it gets me squeamish more so than anything actually being shown. You know what I mean? I love it.
You mean you didn't get squeamish in The Happening, where this lady shows Mark Wahlberg of a tiger trainer who gets their arms ripped off?
God, I can't wait for the Tiger King movie.
I was that the prequel to the Tiger King movie?
Yeah,
I hope so. The last scene I want to talk about is the scene Sam just mentioned with the fight at the end, the climax of this movie, which is, again, this is why I think this movie really stands out in terms of superhero movies. The climax of the movie takes place in a suburban house with Bruce Willis almost drowning in a family pool, and then just chokes a guy out with a sleeper hold. And that's the fight.
Yeah.
Like you're walking into it maybe expecting a big superhero fight. He can probably have like superhero human strength maybe at this point. It's like, no, he almost drowns in a pool and then just puts a chokehold on this guy, and that's it.
Yep.
Like, I love it because it is, people want to talk about realistic superhero comic book movies, and they'll throw out like The Dark Knight or something like that. I'm like, no, Unbreakable
Batman plummets
is
like
that.
6 stories in that and lands on a car and doesn't have both of his legs broken on impact. The Dark Knight is not a realistic comic book movie.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not even a realistic comic book movie past like the first 3 minutes.
Because gravity works differently in the Dark Knight universe.
Gotham has so much smog that it just slows down
no
his gravitational
damage.
pull.
Gravity's not real in DC, man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He just used his cape to float down.
Yeah, I mean, they explained his cape in the entire first one.
Yeah.
That was the premise of the movie. Oh, his cape does that. Cool. Where's Ross?
I love The Dark Knight. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. But...
And I love Batman Begins even more than I love The Dark Knight.
Yeah, so. Actually, Batman Begins is my favorite of that trilogy.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah.
Yep. But anyway, yes, to Casey's point, most realistic fight scene of any superhero movie, likely, where it's just a chokehold. I also liked what they did with like the set design there, where he backs him up and he smashes him through a wall, then he smashes him through another one. He just keeps it on, and it shows, the superhuman side of him, because I mean, there were indents in the wall. A lesser person would have let that chokehold go. So I think that was that's a great point on that, Casey. Yeah.
As a professional wrestling commentator, how well applied was that chokehold?
Pretty well. He should have snap-mared him, and he might have pulled out a victory. But he won that out with a chokehold. Good job, the Guardian.
The Guardian defeats random inmates convict number 00179.
Yep. Dash.
There you go.
All right, so that's it. That's what I had left for Unbreakable. Do you guys have anything else you want to throw out there before we get into our final bits?
The James Newton Howard score is incredible. I didn't notice it really on my first 2 watches of this movie. This last time that I watched it to prepare for this, it really hit me. Like, I was very impressed with the score, especially at the very end with the Sam Jackson's monologue. Like, I just think everything in that scene just like really, I don't know. I noticed the music a little bit more this time around, and I dig it. I really dig it. So
is it the same composer for all 3 of them then?
I don't think so. Because, I could be wrong though.
I don't know.
Well, because the reason why I bring it up there, Sammy, you and I were talking about this a little bit yesterday with like Halloween Kills and whatnot. Is there you go.
Oh, dang.
I don't think he did Split.
So, but yes, there is.
He may have done
Glass. I know the Unbreakable theme is obviously in Split and in Glass.
Yeah, composer for Split, according to IMDb, is West Dylan Thordson.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Let's get into final thoughts here on Unbreakable. Charlie Eccles, I'll throw it to you since this is your favorite Mr. Shyamalan movie.
End on a low note. Start high.
No, I absolutely love this movie. I mean, we've talked about the faults that it has enough, I think, but I think that the good stuff in this movie outshine the faults. And if you're kind of a casual movie goer, this is going to be that may not be stuff that you notice. Whereas I might break down dialogue a little bit more than other people. This is, I think this is the best told story of M. Night Shyamalan. I also think that it's probably one of the better told origin stories for a superhero movie of any of them. I mean, and for the most part, all superhero movies are origin stories. So I think or I shouldn't say all of them, but the majority of superhero movies are origin stories. And this one, I think, was a very well told. And the thing that I think made it work so much, just like any superhero movie, is that you focus on the man, not the power. And that's what made the through line of this movie really work with the emotional side of it.
Yeah. I'm kind of same. Like there are definitely flaws with this movie, but the stuff that works really, really works. I think I ended up rating this a 4.5 out of 5 as well. I dig this movie a lot. Like I said, it's one of those that slipped under my radar until Split came out, and I'm really glad that when Split came out, I decided to watch this because it's phenomenal. I'd say, like, I don't know. I've never actually seen The Sixth Sense. I've said that before, but I would say out of the movies of Shyamalan's that I've seen, I think this one is the best. My favorite is still The Visit. I just love that one. It's pulpy. It's weird. It's totally up my alley. But yeah, Unbreakable is damn near perfect as far as just like the experience it creates.
A few little things and it would have been a perfect movie. Just like every other movie, but this one was close.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
This is the early on M. Night movies where the shining parts outshined the few flaws that we got, because it seems like a very tight movie. Like he had a very concise idea of what he wanted to do and how he wanted to execute it. So there was a lot less sloppiness to it than we've had in other movies since then and whatnot. No, and I completely agree. And I agree. I mean, this is based off a comic book or not. This is by far one of the strongest origin stories that we've had for a superhero style type film, even in the last 20 years. Even as much as I am a Marvel, shill and will continue to go see those movies and whatnot, this is still a very strong origin movie that I think is very hard for other movies to try to encapsulate that same ability.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'll piggyback off that. This is one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. I mean, it's right up there with the best of DC, Marvel. Anything you want to throw out there as the best superhero movies ever, this is in that conversation. And for me, this is top 3 Shyamalan. I mean, I think I'd put The Sixth Sense and Signs right above it, but again, I gave it 4.5 out of 5. I think again, tighten up that ending. Maybe add a couple lines, maybe a scene, something in there. But yeah, I think this is a damn near perfect movie. Fantastic acting throughout the movie. I think it is one of Bruce Willis's and Samuel L. Jackson's best performances. Again, Shyamalan pulling out a great child performance as well, and an undersung female performance with Robin Wright in this movie. I think this just has all those great ingredients that you kind of look for in an M. Night Shyamalan movie, while being toned down with some of the eccentric things he's really known for, with the dialogue, the interactions between characters, how they get introduced. Bruce Willis doesn't introduce himself. Hey, I'm David Dunn. I am unbreakable. Right away. Like in later Shyamalans, he might have just said that right away as his introduction.
Unbreakable David Dunn.
Nice to meet you. Let's get on the train.
Unbreakable.
If he lived through it, if he had lived through it, that's how he would have showed up in the movie Old.
Yeah.
They would have seen how long he could survive. How long is he going to age?
Yeah.
All right, last question for you. If you're going to pair Unbreakable with another movie not called Split or Glass, what's the movie you're going to pair it with?
If I'm going to pair it with a movie?
You're going to pair it with another movie?
You're going to double feature a movie.
I'm going to double feature a movie. I'm going to let you guys go first. I got to think on that.
Okay. Well, my initial reaction was to double it with another deconstruction of the superhero mythos and go with what we're talking about next week, which is Super. But both of those movies are kind of heavy, love Super. But both of them are kind of heavy. So I think I'm going to go, you watch Unbreakable, and you feel kind of bad about yourself, you know? Like, you're like, oh gosh, the world is evil. Sam Jackson is a giant dick. And then you get to the end of the movie, and you're like, and you put in Kick-Ass, and then you laugh at people who are sociopaths, and Chloe Grace Moretz gets to kill a bunch of bad guys, and you have fun with it, you know?
Yeah.
And Nicolas Cage yells while he's on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that movie so much. I do not know what happened with the sequel, because the sequel is awful, but Kick-Ass is one of my favorite comic book movies ever. I love it.
Are you still thinking there, Charlie?
No, I got one, and I'm going to throw it for a loop here, just because I think it'd be a fun double feature. If you got to do Unbreakable first, and then you take your intermission, and then your next superhero movie that you watch is Mystery Men, and you get a complete tonal shift with it.
Nice.
And I think that would be hilarious to see those two movies together.
Love it.
Another movie we will be talking about later this month.
There you go. That is based on a comic book, guys.
Is it?
It is.
Oh.
Well, I want to switch that up. You know, it is based off of a comic book.
Non-comic book / obscure comic book.
Then IGN or whatever website I looked it up on is lying to me.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's based off of, but because there is a superhero. I had a request when I was doing wood burnings to do one of the Mystery Men, which his name was Carrot Man, and I had to look him up, and it's pretty obscure, but it is a comic book.
As Brian's looking it up,
I know I am looking.
You had to tell us this live on air, Charlie. You couldn't have just let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah, that's from everything I've been told. No, I don't.
Well, I literally Googled what comic is Mystery Men based, and the first thing I get response is Flaming Carrot Comics.
Yep. Yep.
Weird.
We're doing it anyway. I don't care. It's already on the schedule.
For those who are watching it on YouTube, if you could let me do
I can't even see it, and I'm watching it on my screen.
So that's entertaining.
Well, I dig that.
Yeah, right.
Carrot Man. And I have a wood burning of him if anybody wants to, have that one because it didn't sell. So
Can't imagine that is what an odd request, and then they don't buy it from you.
Yeah.
That's weird, man. That's weird.
I won't mention him by name on the podcast.
Dude, call him out. Is he listening right now?
He might be.
Was it Andy Heller?
It wasn't. It wasn't Andy Heller. Nope.
That might turn into a rivalry 2.0 with that one.
Rivalry renewed.
No.
Rivalry renewed.
Andy's my new friend.
I'm just gonna have some fun with this here, just because we do deem this a relatively good Bruce Willis movie. We'll pair this with Cop Out.
I love Cop Out.
That was aforementioned in our group chat.
Oh no.
I do. I love that movie. It's not good, but I enjoy watching it every time I do.
I would 100% agree with that.
I think Sean William Scott is hilarious in it.
I bet you do.
Oh no.
The scene where he's like breaking in and he misses the fire escape.
Oh my god.
All I know is I'm looking at this video screen and realizing it's like a nice little X of accepting and not accepting.
We are gonna cop out of this podcast here. Oh, right. Mine I'm gonna pair it with is another father-son superhero movie where the son
Goofy movie is not a superhero movie, Casey.
Hey, Goofy is
your superhero.
And everyone in my age range. But the one I'm gonna pair it with is another movie where a kid thinks their dad is the greatest superhero ever, and it's not because I just purchased this from Walmart. But I'm going to pair Unbreakable with Jingle All the Way.
Turbo Man.
That was
because the Turbo Man. Yes, it was.
Oh,
it says it's a Walmart exclusive.
It is a Walmart exclusive from Funko.
If you press the chest, if you press the chest button, does it say, "I am not a pervert"?
I just wanted the Turbo Man doll.
That's what happens when we press your chest buttons.
I just have to remind you all that I am not a pervert.
I am not a pervert. He's mainly just pointing at himself.
It is that line when you. It is that line when you press my chest, but it's in Statham's voice instead.
Yeah, right.
I am not a pervert.
The underground impersonation episode.
the never to be released.
The never aired impersonation episode.
Yep.
Did we never release that?
We never released that.
No.
Oh my god!
It was you doing Statham for 50 minutes, and
I thought we did release that. That bums me out.
It is gone into the ether.
Yep. Casey threw in Schwarzenegger.
We don't even
Stallone.
We don't even have a copy of it.
It's in the ether. It's gone forever.
Oh my god!
Actually, it might be on my computer somewhere.
I was about to say you should save it in archives because, like, in years from now, like that would be a hilarious. Like, hey, throwback to when we never released this.
That right there is a Patreon exclusive.
Yeah,
there you go.
That is a Patreon exclusive right there.
If I can find it, I will put it on Patreon.
Yeah. If you. And
so speaking about plugs.
All right, let's get to it. Let's check it out. Hey, look, we are on Patreon, patreon.com/backlot605. You can join our $1, $3, $5 tiers there. $5 tiers, you're going to get our bonus episode each and every week. We have that lineup set for this month of September, so you're going to get 4 of those again this month. We're mixing it up with a couple new releases. We're going to throw in another non-comic book superhero movie and a movie that is playing at the State Theater. So patrons, go check it out again, patreon.com/backlot605. You can join us there, and you can also subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and on YouTube. Give us a nice subscribe there if you haven't yet, and drop a rating and review for those places that have it.
No, put your hand up. I'm going to make it look real cool. Wait.
Oh, wait, come on. There you go. Come on. There you go.
Does this look cool? I don't know what's going on. What is happening? I don't know.
Put your hand back up.
Other one.
Other one's got to match.
You guys are awful at this.
Oh my Charlie.
All right. Brian, where can they find us on social medias?
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd HQ, all at Backlot605, as well as on Facebook. We have the South Dakota Film Community Group, film lovers, filmmakers, film enthusiasts, just film people in general. Join the conversation. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about movies.
All right, and then 2 more things I want to throw out for quick plugs. We're going to shout it out for next week's episode. We're going to have Travis Nye on the podcast to talk about Super. Hopefully he does not shove a needle through his hand to gross Sam out on the episode. We will see,
might
though.
Have that dude's phone number saved, though.
That would be amazing.
Okay, the needle was bad, but the cold call was even worse.
It was the best
for me. My anxiety
part.
was like literally, my heart was trying to beat its way out of my chest.
You can find that episode in backlogs of Backlot 605.
Yeah.
Check out our schmuckies from January, and then that is where you can find Travis doing magic and grossing Sam out.
You'll also get to see Eccles yelling at me for not being a competent cameraman.
That too. All right, let's. One more thing, but before I throw it to our incompetent cameraman Sam Lenz, we have a special event coming up September 15th. We're going to be doing another live show. It's going to be a little bit more of a streamlined format. We're going to be doing our first ever live show at Selfie World in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, at the Empire Mall. And our fun concept for this is myself, Brian, and Sam are each going to bring our list of movie characters that we think will have the best Instagram account. Visual cues will also be available at this show as well. Be on the lookout for that coming up.
For
again.
Terrible Photoshop.
Do you guys need a host on this one? Because that's freaking phenomenal.
What's that?
I'll say we'll bring Charlie on. Charlie wants to come.
Charlie, you want to talk?
If I'm not booked for wrestling, I'll be there, guys.
It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday night, Charlie. I think you'll be all right, hopefully.
On a scale of 1 to 10.
AEW Dynamite?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are your Photoshop skills, Eccles?
-4.
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly what we need. So again, that's September 15th, 6 o'clock, Selfie World. It's going to be a free show for everybody to stop out. And then we're going to have some special promotions with them as well. So be on the lookout. That we'll make a little Facebook post, a little social media post beforehand as well. And then I'm going to throw it to our incompetent cameraman, Sam Lenz, for his plugs that he has. And of course, Charlie Eccles after him.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Sam. You can find me on Twitter at Film Lens. You can find me on Instagram at SlensArt. I've also recently launched a comic strip called The Ghoul Fields that's very much in the style of like the Munsters and the Addams Family. And you can find that at The Ghoul Fields on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's been fun. Just experimenting with some things. Might get on Snapchat and TikTok if I decide to try that young people's game.
He's going to experiment a little more on there.
Yeah, so
Sam will have the best Instagram account.
I do. I have the best Instagram. You should follow me there.
How can people are you selling the Ghoul Fields? Because I've been following everything, but I
merch and like the merch and other stuff will be coming.
Okay.
I am currently working on that. So store should be up soon.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, please book him. He is Charlie Eccles. Charlie, where can they find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, please book me. Should I get into announcer mode here for us? All right,
yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Charlie Eccles. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Wrestling Voice 1. That is at Wrestling Voice numeric 1. I am the ring announcer and commentator for Midwest All Pro. I have worked throughout the entire Midwest as both a commentator and as a ring announcer. In a few, I hate to break the news to you guys. I got booked over SuperCon, so I'm gonna be at Supermania for SuperCon on October 1st, October 2nd. I'm going to be in Kimball, Minnesota for Crushed Pro Wrestling. There were a couple of bookings that are coming down the pipeline, but I should be making a few debuts with specifically some of the Minnesota promotions. I'm very excited. I've been in talks with other things, but make sure to follow. My main promotion is Midwest All Pro. You can find Midwest All Pro on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, especially their YouTube account. That is what I'm proud of. That's where you can find my commentary. And if you are serious about booking me, Wrestling Voice Charlie, IE, at gmail.com. If you would like to talk to me about booking me, I would love to come to your promotion. I was recently in Binford, North Dakota, where I got to work with two people who made their AEW Dark debuts this last week, and I've worked with some of the best in the Midwest and a lot of people on TV. I got a lot of people that will vouch for my work, and as will I. So,
as will I.
As will we.
You're good at what you do, Charlie.
Thanks, guys.
Book him.
He's all right. Please book him, though. No.
Charlie, so he'd shut up about not getting bookings this week.
No, please book Charlie Eccles for any wrestling promotions, and please book Jay Lethal in Marvel Spider-Man No Way Home. We need to make that happen. Hashtag Jay Lethal and Spider-Man. I don't know. What's Black Machismo?
What would we call him? The Lethal Saw?
The Lethal Bones? The
lethally inject Spider-Man.
The Lethal Bone Saw.
The Lethal Bone Saw. Yep.
Hashtag the Lethal Bone Saw. Make it happen.
Wait, wasn't it Bone Saw McGraw?
Yeah.
So it's Bone Saw McLethal.
Okay.
No, nothing. No, okay.
Either way, hit up
Bone
Jay
Saw
Lethal on Twitter until he replies to our pitch.
Yeah,
Please.
Jay, you need to listen to us, all right? I get Ring of Honor is kind of a big deal, but you can't big league us. All right, I'm going to get Lanny Poffo involved with this. He's the genius of professional wrestling. All right.
Bonesaw McMachismo.
No.
This sounds like the next hamburger from Burger King or McDonald's. All right, let's wrap this thing up.
What about our Patreons?
Let's put a bow on it.
We are going way off the rails. Special shout out to our patrons. We're going to shout them out: Logan, Blake, Andy, Derek, Lou, Corey, Darren. See you guys later, because we are going to be talking about Super next week. So thank you all for listening. We'll check you out next time on the Backlot of South Dakota. Please book Charlie Eccles.
Whoop.